the criteria to have a stable momentum. So if the brain keeps shifting and your thoughts keep shifting from blue to yellow, from yellow to red, from one position to another position, it is very, very hard for you to process what is stable, what is focused, and what is completely directively productive. And so somebody said that there are two types of people in the world. There are people who have a high energy, but they lack focus. And there are people who have focus, but they don't have energy. Meaning there are people who are creative, but they don't identify themselves with how they can achieve their perception of creativity. Yet there are people who are not creative, yet they have the energy of processing the ability to achieve or to muzzle wealth, but they don't know what to do with that wealth. You may find somebody has $1 million, but he doesn't know what to do with $1 million. So he employs educated people in order to invest this $1 million. This is something that is happening all around us. Some people are good to be controlled. Some people are good in controlling others. Some people are masters. Some people are slaves. Some people operate so well as an employee, and some are just good at management, so they become CEO. This is a gift. This is a gift. Whatever gift you discover you have, please try to activate it, because it is your gift that determines who you are. It is your gift that will open the road or the platform for you to become somebody in life. It is your gift that actually identify you out of 7 to 8 billion people on planet Earth. Never forget, your gift is a special thing, and your gift pronounces the type of faith that you have. For example, you are an engineer. Okay, so as an engineer, you identify your profession. So someone asks you, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm an engineer. So you discover that the work of becoming an engineer start labelizing your position and your title. And from that moment, you become aligned to that particular career or that particular thing that you're doing. And this is how faith works. This is how faith works. What you're good at is where your energy is, and is where your faith is activated. Because what you're good at, the gift you are good at, the capabilities that you are good at, is able to engineer the power for you to achieve anything that someone else cannot achieve. You are called Leon Messi, and Leon Messi is a sportsman. He's a footballer. And how Leon Messi plays is different from how Ronaldo plays. So that even if you bring them all together, each one of them have a different perception on how they play. They are gifted differently. Leon Messi has an art on how he scores, and Ronaldo has an art on how he scores. And those acts on how they professionally score those goals or play their games are all entwined in their brain. The brain processes the final acts that we releases out there. If the brain cannot function, if the brain cannot act, if the brain is cogged and it cannot work, then your entire life is blocked. Faith is connected to how our brain works. What you choose to become will determine the decisions you make, and this is all about the brain. That's what the Bible says, as a man thinks, so he is. How you reason out in life is how you are. If your reasoning is based on fear, you cannot move forward. If your reasoning is based on past experiences, past event, you cannot go forward, because you are dominantly negative in the way you approach matters, in the way you approach life. It becomes very hard for you to go to another step, because your negativity tends to become the shield that blocks you to experience the positive experience. So a person who is always negative, a person who is always influenced by fear, a person who is always influenced by doubt, a person who is always influenced by confusion, it is impossible for these people to activate what is right, because their influence is wrong. Every race, whether they're Indians, whether they are Europeans, whether they are Chinese and Japanese, are able to achieve what they achieve by how they identify themselves by their thoughts. If you go to Tokyo, Japan, you discover that Japanese people think in a particular pattern. They don't believe in certain things. They work like dogs. They push themselves like donkeys. In Japan, they worship jobs. Working is part and parcel of their lifestyle. They don't retire. You find a man is 95 years of age, he's still working, he's still driving a taxi. They die at work. They say number one killer of Japanese people is workaholic. Every Monday you go to offices, you find many Japanese have died in their offices because they are so much connected in the passion of working to the point of losing their ability to function. That is their culture. If you cross over from Japan, you enter Korea and you go to China, you find Chinese people. They also have the art of working. They are very workaholic. They're often doing something. They're very active people. You give Chinese some project to do, they're able to finish that project even before time. Why? Because the art of working is identified in their culture, in their DNA, and in the way they respond to life. And so we now understand why those countries are economically viable. Because the Bible says that if you work, then you can eat. And God is not mocked. You reap what you sow. Now, if the Japanese and the Chinese people are able to create an economy out of just one culture of working, the same thing can happen in Africa. How will Africans identify prosperity? It's not by borrowing money from the World Bank, from IMF. The ideology of begging, the ideology of asking and seeking and relying upon others make you handicapped. A person who is always stretching his hand, begging people, asking people, will never be able to identify the abilities they have within them. And what's enough, if the culture of begging and borrowing becomes part of life, these people become stagnant. And this is number one problem in the continent of Africa. From our leaders, from our presidents, everybody believes in going to Europe to ask for money. Everyone believes to turn to World Bank, IMF, in order to get reservations. This is an ideology and a concept which is creating more opportunity for poverty than opportunity to create wealth. Now the Bible says you shall know them by their fruits. So your action actually displays your culture of thinking. Your action displays your culture of thinking. If you're a person who has a negative perception about life, everything you do is connected to negativity. You believe by stealing you're going to become wealthy. You believe by practicing witchcraft you're going to become wealthy. You are told if you do this and this, you're going to become wealthy. While other people have achieved wealth by just hard working. Other people are achieving wealth by just education. While to your mind, you believe that the ancestors will make you wealthy. That is your perception. That is what you have decided to identify and to align yourself with. And so when you're talking about faith, you're talking about how the talent, the way of reasoning, activates the actions that someone takes. These actions are what now identify us and what entitle who we are, what we are, and what we do. And so this morning, before I finish this chapter about faith, I want also to talk about three very vital things. Number one, how do you get faith? Number two, how do you activate faith? And number three, is it possible to increase faith? Like I said before, you get faith by the information that comes to your mind. If you are negatively informed, the outcomes in your life will be negative. If you are positively informed, the outcome in your life will be positive. A person who loves people is likely to be very rich because he does not have limitation to who comes to his shop. He does not have a limitation to who does he do business with. The more you love people, the more you expand your ability and your capability to love people, the more you're expanding your capability to reach more people. A person who has no love is limited, is isolated, and isolation creates poverty. Because when you are isolated, you are not getting resources from other angles, from other avenues. And the lesser you have, the more critical situation or position you become. And so love